Hi, this is Vibrant Scrappy Mania, and today I just want to give you a recap of my art journal. I'm probably going to need to do some kind of treatment on the cover so that way it looks nicer. But for now, I don't have an inspiration for the cover. I'm going to leave it like that until I kind of figure out what to do. But here's my first art journal that I started with a recycled book that I purchased at the Goodwill store. And this is how thick it is. It closes not too bad, actually. I don't think it's that bad. See, it closes okay. So let's go through all the pages. Now, this is my first page. Let me open this up. And again, look, Mod Podge. Don't use Mod Podge. I do have a video in where I comment that the Mod Podge is not that good. The glossy Mod Podge. It's not good for a finish. But other than that, it's okay. So this is the first page that I started with. I saw a video on art journaling on YouTube, and I got interested in doing this form of art. So I bought this book, and this is the first page that I did. This was the second page that I did. I was on travel, so if you've been following me along, if you remember that I made this page while I was on travel. So I took some papers, I laid it down, and I used some Mod Podge for the finish. At the time when I was out on travel, I didn't have a gel medium or anything for the finish, so I went to my local Walmart, got a Mod Podge glue, and the only thing that they had was glossy, high gloss glue, or the glossy glue. So that's what I got. I didn't get the matte finish, and that's what I started using for these journals. But as I proceeded on with creating these art journals, I learned that Mod Podge is not the best thing. And then here's the other page. As you notice, the Mod Podge is really not helping as well. That just came off now. And then the pictures are kind of getting grunched up with the Mod Podge. So that's the other page that I made. And then this page, I went ahead and at the time I did purchase some gel medium, and that's what I used for this page, and it came out a little better. It doesn't stink as bad. Okay, and here in this page I was just playing around. Just I saw a video on somebody creating some buildings and creating a face, and so this is my first attempt for mixed media doll face that I hand drew and my buildings. So I really like this page. So I was starting to get a little more bolder. Then I found Julie Nutty's stencil, doll stencil. So that's what I used to create this page. And I put Mod Podge on top, and I was using my watercolor crayons to create a background effect and my color misting. And I just realized as I was playing that it was smearing on when I put my gel medium on top. Or this was Mod Podge. So this is another page that I created. I do not have a video process on this page, but I was just playing, I was YouTubing with my sister, and I was just playing around with creating doodles and free drawing butterflies and playing around with creating faces for my dolls and things like that. So that was one of my pages. And then this page, I decided that, I'm having a lot of issues with using watercolor and then going over it with gel medium because I was using gesso to prep my pages. So I decided, well, let me try without using gesso and see how they came out. So the result of that experiment is that the colors really stayed on. So when I used the watercolor, it did stay on. When I put a medium on top, it did not smear. However, you can see all the text because I did not prep it with gesso. But I used my Julie Nutty's doll, and I also used some of my clay pieces that I show you how to create with stamps, and I was just doodling around. This, I saw the Frugal Crafter, one of her videos were showing you how to draw flowers, how to draw a vase, and using her video for inspiration, I kind of started coloring, you know, hand drawing my flowers in a vase, and it came out pretty good. I really like the way that the Frugal Crafter teach you how to draw, even though I don't know how to draw. I was not a art major or anything like that, but it really came out nice with her tutorial. Okay, so this page, I was just experimenting. I put some gesso, and then I took a baby white and took it off. And this is a picture of my husband and I. We were at the park, you know, around our house, behind our house. So the kids have snapped a picture of us, and this is when we used to take them out. Now my kids are older, but this is when they were younger, and we would take them to the park, you know, frequently in the evening to kind of go there and meet people and play, because we homeschooled our kids. So one of the activities after school was we took them to the park to play and socialize with other kids and stuff like that. So this is a picture of that. And then I was experimenting with my glimmer mist or my color mist and things like that. I also was experimenting with oil-based paint. So I had some oil paint, and I was playing with that, and then I quickly found out that it takes forever for oil paint to dry. So this took a while to dry, and that's the first and the last time that I used oil paint in my art journal. Now this piece, I was playing with my homemade gesso. So I made some homemade gesso with black acrylic paint, some plaster and water and glue, and that's what I created. That's how I created the black gesso here. Then I play with some doodling. I just added dimensional pieces on here and just having fun. This is another doll that I was experimenting with, creating a full figure doll, and that's the result of it. So I drew this on a watercolor paper, I cut it out, and I pasted there. So I think that came out pretty nice. This page here, again, I saw a nice little video on YouTube, and a lot of different videos on creating like a ruffle, using a rainbow effect, drawing a doll. And actually this doll, I found it on Pinterest. So I was seeing, I went under Pinterest and I Googled or I searched art journal, and there was an art journal that really struck me because it was so beautiful. And she had a little doll peeking out on the side. So that what inspired me for here. Of course, I was playing with my watercolors and color mist and creating hearts and things like that. So I think this page came out pretty nice. And I used a matte medium to put on the surface. Okay, so this page was inspired by our weekly trip to Dunkin' Donut. My husband and I, every Saturday morning, we wake up before the kids wake up, and we go and have a cup of coffee, and sometimes breakfast. We have either a donut or sandwich or whatever. So this page was inspired by that. I documented that event. I also wanted to play with my stencil and some of my homemade stencil paste, and that's how these butterflies were created. I also wanted to play with some letter art. So I hand drew our weekly cup of Java. I hand drew that, and I think it came out pretty nice, pretty interesting. You know, there's a lot of texture, there's a lot of background. I bought the new stamps from Tim Holt, and I used that on the background, and I really like this page. Okay, so here in this page, I wanted to play with wax, and also I wanted to play with a new doll or new sketchbook that I found at my local electronics store. And the sketchbook was mainly to teach young kids how to draw, and I loved the templates that it had. I loved the images that it had, so I had to buy it. And it wasn't that expensive. It was only like $4.99. So I went ahead and got that, purchased that. And then I was inspired by Susie Blue. She was creating a butterfly using wax and using her hot iron, the little hot iron that you get in your craft store. So she created a beautiful butterfly using that, and I decided to use that to seal my page. I was looking for something that I can use to seal the pages when I do use watercolor, and that hopefully it will not smear while I was placing it down. There was some smearing around, but you know, and I did put some gel medium before too, so there was some smearing, but overall I really like this page. Okay, so this page was inspired by a technique from Donna Downing. What she did is she printed some butterflies from Pinterest. So she went on Pinterest and got images. I did the same thing. I went on Pinterest and I searched for the same image she had, which was a bunch of butterflies. And after I printed out those butterflies, I did what Donna did. She put some gel medium on the surface of her art journal. She laid down the butterfly image side down, varnished it, and then after she did that, she waited like a minute or so. She pulled it away, and when she did that, the butterfly image like that remained in the background. So that's how I created this whole background. As you can see there, those butterfly images stayed on the background. And I did that same thing with the bird. So I really like that technique. Then what I did is, after I did that, I decided to play with some more of my wax. So I melted some wax on top. This doll, I created it using that sketchbook, that portfolio sketchbook. And that's how this page was born. Here's another page that I was playing with some more butterfly. Now this time I did not use that varnishing technique or the image transfer technique. What I did is I just cut the butterflies and just placed it onto the page. And then I went over it with some wax, again some melted wax. And I had some stencils, some alphabet stencils that I used for the background, and just different colors. And here are some stencils that I used my homemade stencil paste to put a background on there. Okay, so this one, I was inspired by another YouTube video in where they used a lot of circles, and they had the paint drip and a bunch of stuff. I also wanted to document my daughter's new puppy, and I wanted to play with doodling, and I wanted to play with creating letter art. And that's how this page was born. I had a stencil or a doily, paper doily that I got from a friend of mine, so I used that to stamp to mist the background. And you know, and I used my white Sharpie paint to go over for the doodling, and I used some of my gold rub and things like that. So that's how this page was born. And this page, I wanted to play with a new stencil that I purchased, and it's the small little brick stencil by Crafters Workshop. And I used that for my background texture. I let it dry for 24 hours. So that was the trick for this. I did not go immediately over it until after it was dry. I did use some gesso in the background, and what I did is, before I put my stencil on it, I took some gesso, I put a light coat, and then I went over with a baby wipe just to kind of prep the surface, but still I did not want to put a heavy coat of gesso because I wanted to go over with some of my paints, my watercolor paints. And so that's how this was born. I went over it with some of my portfolio watercolor crayons. I hand drew this flower. I was inspired by a flower that I saw on Donna Downing's channel. So she was showing you one of her big paintings, so I was looking at one of her big painting, and I saw in the background on her craft wall or on her studio, she had these nice bright red flowers. And I really liked the simplicity of those flowers. And it was not a lot. It was just a couple of those flowers on the background of a wall. And she had a lovely color of blue with this bright red flower, just made it pop. So I decided I wanted to see if I can reproduce that. Similar flower. It's never going to be the same. But I did try to reproduce a similar flower. And that was my version of what I saw. Now in this one, I just got some new Prima dolls, and I really wanted to use them on this page. I also wanted to create like flowers in the background. I put a light coated gesso. I also had a new stencil that looks like, you know, like crackle. You know, that was a new stencil. And I started using my pastels, my Stampin' Up! Pastels that I've got around. And those pastels are about 15 years old. So I took a cotton swab or cotton ball, and I just smeared some brown pastel on top of the stencil, and that what created the background. And then, you know, I just wrote a little journal there, and this page documents my affection for Prima dolls. I just can't get enough of those things. And then here, I was inspired by another YouTube video, and I see a lot of YouTube videos, and sometimes I forget. I need to start documenting the videos that I see and who inspire me. But, you know, there's a lot of nice little videos out there that teach you how to draw, how to paint, how to use watercolor. So in one such video, I saw a gentleman creating a vase and then painting flowers, watercolor flowers. And when he was using the watercolor and painting those flowers, it didn't look like much, but the end result was beautiful. So I decided that, you know, it doesn't look that hard. Let me try. So this is my attempt of what I saw on YouTube. I also had some stamp flowers that I've stamped for another project. So I had them laying around in my craft room. I took them out, and I just placed them randomly around the page. So, and then I used a brick stencil. Well, actually, that's a brick stamp, and that's it. So I made this page, and then the next day, I saw another video on perspective. And it was by the Sakura YouTube channel, and she was teaching you how to do perspective, how to draw buildings and look like a horizon and things like that. So it looked pretty simple. I decided to try it out, and I created this page using that video for inspiration. And of course, I put my Prima doll because I'm just too obsessed with those. And then here in this one, I was just playing around. And what I did on the background, I also had I put a faint coat of gesso. Then I stamped my images on top of that gesso. And then after I did that, I started coloring them in. And so there's no paper piecing or anything. It's just color and just playing with my Prima dolls and just creating a nice little background. And this one, I wanted to play with creating my own image and not the full figure, so I just wanted a short figure. And I also wanted to kind of practice on creating my trees. Now you can see my trees are not perfect. They're not as nice as some of the other trees I've seen on YouTube, but I'm getting there. And then I wanted to play with some flowers and a new stamp that I got from Amy Tangerine, and this is another stamp that I got from Amy Tangerine, and some other stamps that I had laying around. So I just was a day that I was just playing with my and actually this is Stampin' Up! Pastels. So I took again a cotton swab and I just put pastels on the background, and that's the result of it. Now this is the wild child, I'm telling you. This one, at the beginning, when I started doing it, it looked nice. Then I started experimenting with crayons. So I started melting some crayon on top and things like that. And sometimes, you know, it's nice to play with things, even though it's not the greatest of the page, but it was fun doing it. I mean, it was fun taking those crayons and melting them. It was fun creating my butterflies and creating this image here. So, you know, it was nice. So I do like this page. That's not one of my favorite, but it was kind of happy to create. Now this page, I do have a tutorial on comparing gesso against absorbent ground against just regular, my homemade gesso. So I had bought a store-bought gesso, a homemade gesso, and absorbent ground, and I compare all three products against each other. And so this one was what I created after that tutorial. So I went ahead and I had these dolls that I created with the Julie Nutting's doll's stencil. So she has a nice little stencil that you can trace and cut out your dolls. So that's what I used for here. And then I had some more of those flowers laying around. So I wanted to use everything that was just laying around my counter, and I just plop it down. There were some nice little stamps that I just got from Joanne. And this one was home is where you keep your craft supplies. So I wanted to use that one. I think it was pretty appropriate for this page. I'm also doing some more letter art. And you know, lately I've been getting inspired by the Sakura channel. And Joanne I think is her name. Let me show you her book that I purchased and I've been using to kind of inspire me. So I put all those kind of books that I get that for like my dolls and things like that. I have it in this little folder so I can pull out. So this one is Senspirations Letter Pattern by Joanne Fink. And I really love how she takes ordinary shapes and just spruce them up. Anybody could do this. I mean, you can really, and look at this, these letters are just gorgeous. So, I'm working on kind of, and I love this. I really need to kind of try this out, these doodles and things like that. So, she takes you step by step how she creates these. So that's how I kind of was playing around and see if I can do something similar. It's never going to be as beautiful as hers, but it'll be nice enough. You know, it's nice. Okay. Again, gesso. Not gesso, but that glossy stuff. The matte podge, Mod Podge. Don't use matte podge. I hate the matte podge. But once that I've done it, I'm committed with it. So I just know that my future art journals will not contain one spigot of glossy Mod Podge. No way, no how. Now in this one, I wanted to play with putting some color on my homemade stencil paste in my stencil. I also was playing with taking an image from a magazine and then coloring on top of that image and creating my own dolls using that. So this is what came out of that technique. And I do have a video on this one. This one was another one that I was just playing around. I was just doodling, putting paint, slopping things on, kind of hand drawing a doll. And I was playing with creating different eyes, mouth, and then the hair. And it was just a fun little project I was just playing. So I do like this one. I like the colors in the background, even though the doll is not perfect. It's just, you know, nice to play. And then this one is, I bought at an HSN a stamp that came with the coordinating dies of butterflies. So that's what I used to kind of do the background. And I also use my color pencils to color in the butterflies. This one was playing with spraying, you know, color mist and using water to let it drip down. I was playing with creating, I saw another YouTube video of a lady, she was creating these type of face that had like the nose like that, the mouth, using black for outline. Now in hers, she used a lot of different colors on her face and stuff like that, and it was gorgeous. It looked like a Picasso, or even better than a Picasso, because you really could see the form of the doll and everything. So I was not as adventurous as her. I did work on the face, copying her technique a little bit. And I did put some different colors around the face and stuff like that. Because if you've seen before, you know, I create the face, but I don't adventure with putting layers of different colors on my faces. It's just one plain color. This one, I started to put a little pinks, a little blue, a little white, just kind of getting a little, you know, learning to shade and things like that. So this was my version of that tutorial, and I think it came out pretty nice. Another thing that I used was I was lucky enough to find this what's it called? It's a tape that you buy on the hardware store. It's the drywall tape. So I was able to find the drywall tape that had the circles, and that's what I used to kind of create this little circle. I mean the background, and it was nice. You know, I hand drew these shapes, and I have a Rolodex pack of blank cards. I used that for my journaling, and it was just kind of happy page. Now this is the one that I created with the dimensional butterflies, and I know Jen, you were asking if it closes all right. It does. This closes all right, and there is still some dimension on your butterfly. Not as much when you first create it, but there is still some dimension on your butterflies. This is some stencil paste. I bought a new feather stencil, and that's what I used for the background. I was reusing, or actually trying to get rid of all my chipboard letters that came with the Martha Stewart wedding album kit. And you've seen my video, hopefully you have seen my video on the wedding album that I created using that Martha Stewart kit for my sister-in-law. So there were some leftover items there, so I wanted to kind of use them in my art journal, so because I don't want to throw them away. And the best use of those letters is to kind of incorporate it into your art journal as background, or you can do some leather surgery, like I say it is, and cut the letters. Like this was a B, you cut it to simulate a E. This one is a W, so you put it upside down. This is a V, so you put it upside down for the A. This was, I don't know what this was, but I created a T with 2 letters, so that's how you can do, kind of reuse it. They're perfect for your art journal. And these butterflies are from Sizzix die with the coordinating embossing folder. And then these are just regular punches that I've purchased before from the Big Lots, and when in Ross, they were on sale, so I purchased the small little butterfly and the larger little butterfly, and I just put it sprinkled around the page. Now this is my last page. I have been watching a lot of videos on the Finnebar technique. I don't know if that's the name of the technique or if it's the name of the artist that came up with that technique, but I really like the Finnebar. I've also seen other artists like Gabriel Polacco and other artists that use that similar technique. They put a lot of embellishments and clusters, and then they go over it with gesso. After they do that, they go over with their glimmer mist or their color mist, and then after they do that, they really kind of get everything. It looks very nice. So this is my first attempt of that Finnebar technique. I have created a lot of handmade flowers from other tutorials that I had laying around. So I took those and I incorporated them. I incorporated some of my hot glue embellishments that I created with some of my silicone molds. This face is actually Kate Upton, and I took a magazine, I cut her out, and then I just went over her features and everything with some more paints and her eyes, and you really cannot tell this is Kate Upton after I was done with it. But so that's what I did there. I was playing with more of my letter art, made some butterflies, and then the background, this background was created with some drywall tape that is solid tape. It doesn't have any holes, so I just cut those in squares, and I just laid them together. And see, it gives it some dimension. I really like how that came out. And of course, I took some of my sprays and I dripped some of it down. So that was it. So this is the last page of that art journal. So this is it. I mean, it closes okay, and it would have been worse if I wouldn't have taken pages out of this book. But I really like it. It is a nice little, my first little art journal. I do like how it came out. It does document the progression from this stage when I first started art journaling to this stage. And you can see now, you kind of progress. As you do more of this art journal and things like that, your technique kind of evolves. So I'm learning how to evolve from that old technique, like this one and then this one. So I hope you like this video and my, on my art journal, my first art journal. And thank you for watching. Bye now.